A group of Togolese opposition parties called for a march in the capital, Lomé, on the 30th and 31st of August to demand political reforms. The Togolese opposition have been demanding for 10 years now that the constitution modified in 2002 be revised, in particular to reintroduce a limitation of presidential terms to 10 years at the very most. Now, these political parties are also calling for an independent investigation to bring to justice the perpetrators and the sponsors of the violence recorded during Saturday's demonstrations. African Affairs analyst Jendele Hungbo joins me now to share his thoughts on this. Many thanks for joining me.
Thank you very much.
Now, what do you make of this call for a match, and do you think it will be allowed to hold?
Yeah, well, it's going to be difficult to say whether the government will allow the opposition to hold the match. But judging from what has happened, if the match is allowed at all, the security for the match would perhaps be beefed up. And it's also likely that we'll see a crackdown on opposition leaders before the day of the match or during the match, because that has been the trajectory of Togo since Faure Yasingbe took over office from his father. And again, from what has happened during last Saturday's match, the government as well as the opposition should also be prepared for another round of violent clashes on the streets.
Let me ask you, Jendele, will revising the Togolese constitution change much in Togo?
Well, even if it's not going to change much, at least it will give a semblance of some new breath into the political life of Togo. Don't forget, part of the campaign or part of the grounds expressed by the opposition is the fact that there's this dynasty, the Yasingbe family, or what you can call it, the Yasingbe dynasty, has ruled the country for almost 50 years now. And so also looking at the wave of changes occurring in different countries across the continent, it's almost becoming inevitable for Togo to at least give the world some semblance of hope about political transformation in that country. So if you also follow the social media campaign, the hashtag Togo and March, which translates to Togo on the move, it's kind of the Togolese beginning to see themselves as lagging behind too much in political transformation sweeping across the African continent. And so if we give a semblance of hope and make the political landscape expand a little bit more for democracy to at least begin to take a stronghold in Togo.
A semblance of hope, you say. Now, one of the things they want changed in the constitution is to set a limit for a 10-year presidential term. Now, 10 years is already ridiculous. What's your thought on that?
Well, I wouldn't say 10 years is ridiculous. 10 years would be just 2 terms. I mean, if you have had a country in which only one man ruled for 38 years, because don't forget that Yasingbe Yadima ruled that country for 38 years. So if people have the opportunity to at least limit that to 10 years, to 2 terms of 5 years each, I think that would be some step forward. And so, yeah, if one of the key things, one of the major constitutional reforms that Togo can do at the moment is to make sure that nobody sits tight in office any longer. And that has been the major thing happening across the continent now, to see that leaders keep to the mandate that they are given. So if you come into office to run for 5 years, you already know that you're coming in for 5 years. And if your people want you for another term, then the maximum you should be able to get is an additional 5 years. So the 10-year term limit for me would not be a bad idea.
Oh, well, we'll have to leave it at that. 10 years of 2 terms, you say, well, but we're not quite sure if it's a single term of 10 years or 2 terms of 5 years each. Jendele Hungbo, African Affairs analyst, many thanks for joining me on TVC News.